Order. We have 6 trustees present.
7.
Did Miguel get there?
Oh, I'm sorry. I'm just counting this side.
Please stand for the pledge to the flags.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Honor the Texas flag. I pledge allegiance to thee, Texas, one state under God, one and indivisible.
We kind of died on the end there, huh?
I thought it was a previous date.
We'll begin with the superintendent's report.
Madam President, members of the board, really the only thing that I would like to state is I'd like to wish everybody a Merry Christmas, a Happy New Year. Focus, it's not over yet. Anyway, no, it's been a really good semester, so just wish everybody get some rest, all the staff, all the students, those 3 people that are watching right now. Ms. McLaughlin, we'd like to wish you a Merry Christmas.
I think she's making cookies. Just watching today.
It's been a good start, and I'll just briefly say last week I got to go to Google training. We did some design thinking with about 30 teachers or so that Mr. Nevada has organized. So it was really neat to be, and a lot of those teachers in many cases were new that I had not met, but it was really interesting after 3 years of being in the district that across the district you're starting to hear teachers speak really the same language around innovation and about really all being in alignment. So it was good for K-12 to be together, and they mixed us. They did a really good job, and I think the message was, hey man, let's take some chances on doing things differently and not be afraid to fail. I think that was the message. So it's okay to fail forward if we're failing forward for doing what's right for kids. So I do want to give a shout out to that group of teachers, but that's not the only group. I mean, we have the ISD teachers, you have your AVID, AP, the Gear Up group. I mean, I can go on and on with the number of teachers across the district, and we've done a really good job of working with professional development to do culturally relevant practices. So I think that's the second part. I know many of the board members are focused on equity, and that really is starting to buy in across the district, and that's what we look at like in data. So we appreciate all the staff and what they do. Appreciate y'all, and we hope that y'all get some rest. And with that, I am done.
Thank you. We'll move on to public forum. Our first and only speaker is Carol Peters. Wants to speak regarding agenda items 4D and 8B.
60 probably. Then today?
Thank you. Carol Peters, Maxwell, Texas. I always enjoy coming and thanking our trustees for their service to our tri-county community and district, and 3 incorporated districts in our district. So I wanted to speak, first of all, my first comment is about the rezoning. I did attend one of the community meetings and wrote down my thoughts on that. And they gave me a real nice opportunity to discuss with them the elementary attendance grade report that I had seen a couple of months ago, I think, here at the school board meeting or someplace from you guys. My main concern, I just wanted to mention it again, is that there's the Plan 1 and Plan 2. My understanding is that the demographer suggested to the district that he thought it would be best to have the fewest number of elementary schools affected by the changes when we put in Rodriguez Elementary. And my response to that is that I'm not sure that the demographer really understands our district. A few years ago, we had our former superintendent was Dr. Patty Schaefer, and she was in the process. She had that job of rezoning, and she was talking to me about the laws regarding economically disadvantaged populations and how it's supposed to be distributed. So I'm not familiar totally with those laws, and I think that there are ways you can get around the percentages. But to me, De Zavala, which is the one that our business relates to, because all of our clients attend De Zavala Elementary, all of our elementary clients, they are the highest percentage, if I'm correct, of economically disadvantaged. And if I'm correct, if I understand it, I don't think that they're one of the schools that you're going to be pulling from or that you're going to be involving in the rezoning. So I think that that's incorrect, and I have asked for a plan 3 or 4. I don't know, maybe you've already gotten some more plans from the demographer, but I would hope that you'd have a plan that was a little bit more extensively affecting more of the schools for that reason. And then lastly, if I have another moment, I just wanted to mention, I'm from Caldwell County. I have, where's my card? Where's my note? Note. Okay. So this is specifically to trustees Villapando, McLaughlin, and Halsey. In the past, I have witnessed you guys when this issue comes up of the Caldwell County Appraisal Board. They always say, you know, we don't know anyone, and so we don't want to give our votes to anyone. So I would ask those 3, if you could please, if you don't know, if you haven't researched this and researched who is available for you to vote for, that the 3 of you possibly consider tabling this until you find out who they are and which one would be most willing to acknowledge that San Marcos CISD is in their county. Thank you.
Thank you.
Can I respond to that?
Yes, you may respond.
I'm sorry, Carol, before you leave?
No, why don't we just take it up on the agenda item?
We'll take it up when we get to that item.
Okay. Well, I wanted her to know.
Yeah, no, just it's about precedent.
Hopefully she's not leaving.
Oh, okay.
Next item, we're at 6, reports, information items, CASB policy review.
Good evening, members of the board, Madam President. Returning is Ms. Baumann to discuss and review the comprehensive policy review summary, to go through some parts of it. Thank you all, members of the community and board, for having me. So I don't know if you have the entire packet, but it is about 90-some pages, so I'm not going to stand here and go through it policy by policy. But I just wanted to let you guys know that, when I was here a month or so ago, I talked about the policy review session I'd done with your administrative team, and I went back to the office, and I've worked very closely with your team about revising those policies even further. And so what you have is the final draft, I guess, of all those policies that are being revised. And after I get your approval to go ahead and process the policies as presented, or maybe we need further revisions, then I will actually process them in our database, and you will get a new clean manual. Most of the changes were to take out details that I would recommend leaving it up to the administration as an administrative reg. There's a lot of detail, especially in the B section of the manual, regarding board duties, and that's all in compliance with law, so it doesn't need to be restated in the local policy. But the goal was just really focus the local policies on governance issues and leaving kind of the details up to the administration to put in their regulations. And that was kind of the gist of that, and I'm happy to take any questions you guys might have about individual policies at this moment.
I had questions, but I got with Ms. Bison. She cleared them up for me.
Good.
Yes.
Anyone else?
I want to thank Ms. Baez and Ms. Bowman for spending an hour with
It's
me
our
ahead of
pleasure.
the board meeting to go over several different policies. I
Happy to
appreciate
do
the
it.
time.
Thank you.
Thank
guys.
you so much.
Welcome.
Anybody else have any questions or comments? Thank you so much.
You're welcome.
6B, academic update.
Good evening, Board President Cantu, members of the board, Superintendent Cardona. In an effort to streamline our academic reports, as was previously requested, we've done two things tonight. First, we've separated out the presentations, which begin on page 15 of your board book. We've also included context materials, supplementary and more elaborate details, which begin on page 22, and you may have reviewed those before our presentation tonight. We've also brought all four reports together into one presentation, and we hope to take questions at the end. Thank you. At the beginning of the month of March, we submitted our first PEAMS submission in December, and part of that was our demographic data. Our demographics don't traditionally change. However, we did have a shift in our economically disadvantaged percentages. That came as a result of the Community Eligibility Program, which was approved last year, where all students eat lunch for free. We no longer do free and reduced lunches anymore. So instead, we have to use what we call the CEP form to determine if a family would qualify for free or reduced lunches and has economic need. You can see a couple things really quickly. Students qualify in two ways. First, there's direct certification, which means the state reports to us that they're using some type of support, and therefore we don't have to interact with those families to gauge what their need is. And then there's certification through our document, and we did interact with those families to determine what our eligibility percentage for the district was. Number two, our district-wide economically disadvantaged percentage moved from 69% last year to 74% this year. We no longer have any campus below 65% economically disadvantaged. The state average last year was 59% economically disadvantaged, to kind of understand where we fall with the state. In general, this is neither good nor bad, except we're pleased about the ability to engage our families and better understand the need in our communities. We just wanted to report that out to you. At Agenda Prep, there was a question about how our algebra initiative was going for 8th graders. Put together a brief slide giving you some information. The 2018 STAR data kind of helps you understand how we did last year at the high school and then at the middle schools, and that includes our gifted and talented students who take algebra in 7th grade. Those were our STAR scores last year. You can definitely see the impact of increasing the participation in algebra the last 2 years on the number of students at the high school this year who are in the program. And that's 373 is down from a freshman class well over 500 students. We did take a different approach, a differentiated approach with our middle school students in curriculum and resources. We are using our Springboard curriculum that's aligned with College Board. And you approved and invested in calculators that allow us to differentiate our instruction, and that was rich training to our teachers also. So that's part of what we hope is making that investment in our 8th graders wise and successful. The one metric that we have right now is the first 9 weeks passing percentage. And I don't want to say that that's going to be our STAR passing rate. I don't think that's fair. That does account for students with all kinds of needs and teachers accommodating them, knowing them and helping them to be successful. But we do believe that we're off to a good start. And while we're hopeful, we do have a strong intervention program underway. It's really diverse at the middle school level. You can see between the high school and middle school, trying to meet students individually and personally before school, after school, lunch, through technology and on a variety of platforms. However a student is willing to seek help, we're there to work with them, or we have people there to work with them.
Good evening, board members. Ms. Cardona, Mike DeWill, CT Director for the district. In order to answer a question, I put together a report, a graphic that shows the CCMR certification report for 17-18. If you look at the graph, you'll see on the left-hand side the program of study. Next to that, the courses that align to that certification. the enrollment of students in 17-18 within those courses, the certification that aligns, and then the number of certifications earned in 17-18, and finally, the enrollment, current enrollment of 18-19. Second graph, or second slide, I wanted to show you a regional comparison and also a comparison of our group or campus groups across the state. If you look at the left-hand graph, you'll see that these certifications earned in 16-17, it's a lagging indicator. You'll see the regional schools that surround San Marcos ISD, from Hayes CISD to Comal, Wimberley, and how those numbers play out, the number of certifications earned, and how that percentage of certifications equates to that cohort class. On the right-hand side, you'll see the comparison group of all of our comparison schools throughout the state, and again, built the same way, San Marcos CISD, San Marcos High School, and our number of certifications and the percentages that were earned. I do want to point out that when you average the entire list of those comparison districts, it averages out to 14, just right over 14 certifications for each school district.
Good evening, Debbie Smith, Coordinator for Advanced Academics, GT, and 504. And I want to talk to you about our PSAT 8, 9, and NMSQT results. We're really excited. If you look in your board book, pages 23 and 24, we're real excited about the 2-year mean score increase for both of these tests. So if you want to compare cohort to cohort, you need to look at, thank you, the pointer. This one is your 8th grade PSAT takers, and in 9th grade, if you'll compare those scores in that way, you'll see the growth, because the 8th grade in 2017-18 are our 9th graders currently now. So we're real excited about the growth that we've seen in the mean scores for both tests and the mean score individually for math and the evidence-based reading and writing. So same thing goes on our PSAT and NMSQT. You'll see that 2-year mean score increase when you're looking at the 10th grade, and then you look at them in their cohort as 11th graders. And the reason for comparing that way is they're taking the same test. The 8th and 9th graders take the same test. The 10th and 11th graders take the same test. And there's also an increase in the percent who met benchmarks across all categories. You can see that by this graph. We've also seen a growth in closing the gap between our district and our state mean scores. So in 2017-18, starting with our 7th grade, we had 51 point difference between the district average and the state average, but by the time they were 8th graders, that had close to 46 points. So we feel like the multiple testing, I know that was a question at board prep, taking it multiple times is showing an increase in closing that gap, because they're getting more exposure to rigor and they're seeing what that looks like. It also helps prepare them for other rigorous tests that they're going to have to take, like the TSI, the ASVAB, and other things like that. So the more we can put that rigor in front of them so that they can see what that test is like, the better the results can be. And it also, something about the PSAT that some people don't understand is in 2015 when they redid the SAT, they also redid the whole suite of assessments. So they're aligned with each other. So you have scale scores that mean something. So if a high scale score for PSAT 8-9 is 1440, they can tell you on the score report, which parents will receive in January, where you would score if you were taking an SAT at that same time. And the other benefit from testing our 7th graders is it allows us to look for those Duke tip scholars. And we've had several kids come and take those tests just to see how they will fare. So it's been a great opportunity for our students.
Were there any questions we can address for you?
Trustees?
I have a question.
Ms. Hanson?
2 questions. The first one is on algebra update page. Those tutorial interventions that you note, especially the technology, are any of those they're able to access at home?
Yes, anything that our students can access on their laptop, they can access at home if there's wireless.
Wonderful, thank you. And then on the certification page, it's page 18 in our book. I note that the, I'm not sure, architecture and construction now gets NCCER. Are they actually getting certification?
Yes, ma'am.
Wow, that's pretty amazing. Thank you.
Ms. Halsey?
I just had one question on the algebra update. Can you explain to me again, because I didn't quite catch it, why do we have fewer ninth graders taking algebra now than we did last year?
Because we've been increasing the participation in algebra at the 7th and 8th grade level the last 2 years. So there's, those students are now in geometry
okay.
or beyond.
And so then the expectation next year that the ninth grade algebra class will be almost minuscule.
It'll be
right?
any student who struggled enough in 8th grade that they failed the course, and any student who moves in.
Okay, thank you.
Ms. Costilla?
I think Ms. Villapando had.
Ms. Villapando?
Yes, I did have one. Getting back to page 18 with the certifications, I noticed the high percentage of certification for certified nurses aide. I mean, that seemed to be higher than any of the others. Have they all been on track at the same time? For instance, the 27-18 course student enrollment and the certifications, CNAs have a higher percentage of graduation or getting a certificate. Is there a reason why some of the others are not?
Yes, ma'am. You know, in response to TA coming out with a new list of CCMAR certifications, we've been currently working with the entire CT department to really realign all of our programs to ensure that we're encompassing more CCMAR certifications. CNA is a well-oiled machine. Some of these certification programs are relatively new, so we're continuing to grow these programs, providing teacher training and whatnot to have that success rate.
That's what I thought, but I didn't want it to be, you know, the wrong thought. Anyway,
Anybody?
thank you.
Ms. Costilla?
I've got to, on the 8th grade algebra, I know this is just the first 9 weeks of passing, but what major reason would you pinpoint for the discrepancy in the percentage numbers passing?
We know we have cohorts of students that struggled even last year on the 7th grade star, and we see that in the discrepancy here. And that's a little bit of why we took a differentiated approach to the curriculum and the teacher training, and also to the early intervention this year.
Yeah, because we have that at 82% at Miller right here, as it shows.
And that's our cohort that had a tremendous struggle in the 7th grade star last year.
Okay. Page 18, which is the certification report. Notice that following up on Ms. Villapando's CNA report, you had 16 students enrolled last year and 16 were certified. Is that correct?
Yes,
Am I reading it correctly?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, so trying to make sure that I'm reading it correctly, my concern is over here where we have in pharmacology, we have 23 students enrolled and only 4 were certified.
Yes, ma'am.
And of course, the other numbers down here, web technology, 36 enrolled, 13 certified. With 23 and what was it? Well, pharmacology. Some of those that I was cosmetology, even cosmetology, 16 and only 1 certified.
Right.
Could you please expand on that?
Yes, ma'am. And for the expansion of that question, it's a great question. We looked at this data, and it does tell a story that that has led us to where we're at in CTE in revamping some of our programs to provide additional resources, teacher, PD, even really consult with our advisory committees in business and industry to see how we can increase that number of certifications earned. Does that answer the question?
Well, I mean, I know that at the end of this year we'll get a report. I was just reflecting that and looking at the numbers that, for instance, pharmacology, there were 23 enrolled last year, you only have 13 enrolled this year. Some of the other numbers, you have higher numbers, and practicum of veterinarian, and which is 22. So I'm glad to see those numbers, and hopefully maybe that certification numbers will see an increase in those certifications.
Yes, ma'am.
Ms. Hanson?
Yes, when students, I'm assuming to get their certification, they'll have to take tests,
Yes.
and do we pay for the tests?
Yes, with Perkins funding for
Okay.
CCMR.
Because that could be an impediment for our kids. Thank you.
Anyone else?
Sure, I got a couple. Sticking on that point while we are on it, I too was alarmed at some of these numbers, and I want to know where you are in that process of redoing the curriculum or changing the course, because I think we got this report in response to a trustee request, so it's not like you came to us and said, man, we've got this problem, they're all failing the certification exams, or many are failing. Instead, we asked for it, and then it's like, well, we've already dealt with that, we've got a program. And I think if y'all communicated, or you communicated on the front foot these numbers to us and said, here's a problem, here's our solution, I would receive it better than us asking for it, data, and then you saying, yeah, we already have that under works. You know, it seems, you know, that the time to let us know there's an issue would be sooner. Are they all taking the certification exams? Like, so or some not? So I can really read that, like in robotics, 31 took the exam and nobody passed?
Correct. We challenge every student to take the exam for certification.
And the QuickBooks one, I remember that coming up before, but 9 took it and nobody passed?
Yes, correct.
And then same with it was already mentioned, the certified veterinarian assistant, 1 out of 14. Do we provide those numbers to the parents and families when they enroll, so they know this is going to be an uphill sled, we're having a tough time with these courses, or how is that communicated?
We communicate with parents through meetings. We try to showcase that these certification programs, not just the certification itself, but the curriculum itself, is intense. For example, EMT has a lot of real life situations that are very serious, and it takes that level of understanding from the parents and also the student. So we communicate the not just necessarily the certification itself, but the entire program to parents.
And how are these students' grades in the course?
You can earn a credit with the course without earning the certification.
Do you give a grade?
Students do earn grades and earn the credit for the class, yes.
I'd like to see the grade distribution for these same numbers, because I mean, if they're all making 98s and 100s, I don't think we're signaling to them you're not grasping the material, right? So maybe you could provide that in the next couple weeks or something. That would be helpful for me. Or a mean. You know, I don't need the whole distribution, but just so I can see, you know, how it relates to how they did on the test.
Sure.
And then I have one more. This would probably be for Mr. Martin, but this is kind of distressing, these economically disadvantaged numbers. I don't think our student base is significantly poorer than last year. Do you think this data is different because we gathered it differently?
I do think that's part of it, sir. Last year the dynamic was people had to come to us and say, I have a need for my child to have free and reduced lunch, take my form. This year we went to families and said we want to understand the need. The trend when a district goes with the community eligibility program is that their economically disadvantaged drops dramatically. And so we made this, as you can read in your board book where I provided a little more context, we made this part of enrollment packets. When we met parents in that first 9 weeks as an administrator, we said, did you have a chance to review this form? And we connected with 95% of our kids to try and understand the needs. From there, it's simply a sliding scale, your household income and number of students in your home. And that's a federal thing. It's just a table, and they qualify or they don't.
I understand. Did the direct certification number change significantly? Because that's not data we gather differently. That's data we get every year, right?
I don't believe the direct certification changed.
So this was all the CEP's qualifications?
This was understanding the need in our community that we previously had not documented.
I think actually, so this was just increases in the CEP number, right? You said the direct certification, rather than the conclusion, I'm just wanting to know the data. You said the direct certification stayed constant, so all of this increase was at the CEP?
Yes, sir, that was in the form.
Thanks.
Ms. Costilla?
Just following up on Mr. McLaughlin, I do applaud you for doing this, because this has always been, even though we do have free and reduced lunch for everybody now, this is one of the things that I think that was always a concern to me as an individual trustee, because I know that there are some individuals that don't fill out that information. And so those numbers were not actually what they should have been. Coming in here, either students don't give it to them, they don't want to be identified, or parents don't feel that they can fill out the application. So I really appreciate this information that you got that really gave out. You reached out to these individuals, even though, like I said, we do have free and reduced lunch, free lunch for everybody, but I think this is important information for us to have. Thank you.
I have two questions, or two comments. Where is the Cisco program here on your list?
So
It's in
Cisco
the
is
form.
embedded with the information technology, the web tech networking, in the Microsoft Technology Associate certification. As that program is growing, the capstone course, which that cohort will be in next year, the practicum of infotech, is where they will work for that CCENT.
So it's a 2-year program, the Cisco.
2 to 3, actually.
2 to
It's
3.
we feel as though that MTA is a solid certification to give them the foundation to work in that CCENT.
Okay. The second comment was I would like to see the January report on how the 8th graders finished the semester and how many passed. That's okay with y'all? Any other questions on this? Thank you, Mr. Barton. Thank you. Good job. Construction update.
Good evening, I'm Karen Griffith. I'm the Assistant Superintendent for Business and Support. And on page 38 of your board packet, 34, is the construction update. You do see one from our architect, followed by the individual contractors. All of them are on target with the exception of transportation, and you can see that in there. And we have shown you the rain days which have caused the delay with this project, and it's scheduled to get its TCO January 4th. So if the board has any questions, we do have our contractors here and available.
Can you tell us what TCO means?
Your temporary certification of occupancy.
Any questions?
When is the delivery date or completion of the Hernandez re-roof?
Can he come up here, because I can't hear him?
Oh, sorry.
We can't hear you. Could you come up here, please?
Good evening, Board. Again, the drying will be done by Wednesday. We're looking to be complete before the Christmas holidays, before you're back from the Christmas holidays.
And do you have a date specified in your contract with the district of when you were to deliver that project?
It's 120 days.
And are you within 120 days with delivery before the Christmas break?
We have sustained some weather days, so we do have some weather days coming. We're asking for those weather days, so when we get those weather days, we'll be within contract time.
When did you start?
We started July. I'll have to check the exact date, but we got our permit in July, towards the end of July.
Thanks.
Any other questions?
You did mention that everything's on date up to,
With the exception of
transportation.
And when is transportation going?
January 4th.
When was it supposed to be ready?
It was supposed to be first part of September, but due to the rain days, we've had some issues with that construction site.
Good.
Is Rodriguez Elementary on track to be open in time?
As of right now, yes.
Yes.
Anyone else? rezoning community meetings report.
Good morning, good evening, Board of Trustees. No, we're not in the morning yet. Sorry for the technical difficulties. I'll speed up so we can catch up on time. My name is Andrew Fernandez. I'll provide an update on the rezoning process. So where we started, this was our current draft. So we went to our community meetings. This is the draft we started with. This is the projections that were provided by Templeton Demographics. We'll get to these numbers a little later in comparison to our Plan 2. So some of the frequently asked questions at the 6 meetings were as follows. So will Rodriguez Elementary offer a dual language program? To maintain sustainability for the dual language program, Rodriguez currently will not be offering a dual language program. A question that came up as well, is Rodriguez expected to have lower class sizes? And we'll let the community know that we're going to follow the same process for all elementary schools, and class sizes will be consistent throughout the district. When is the rezoning map going to be finalized? So we informed the community that we're going to provide this information to the board, and we hope to have everything finalized between January and February. We do have a tentative date for the transfer window to open up in March, so we would like to get it done before then. Where can we find this information? All the information can be found on our district website. Will Rodriguez offer special education services? Yes. If student qualifies, just like all the other elementary campuses, will offer a special education services. And you know, ironically enough, at almost every meeting they ask, where is Rodriguez Elementary going to be located? So we let them know it'll be located off Posey Road behind San Marcos Toyota in the new Trace subdivision. So a few takeaways, 3 takeaways from the community meetings. The first takeaway, based on feedback from the community, was, if you look, their question was, so this is Rodriguez in the light blue. So if you're looking at this map, Rodriguez is this light blue. And so a question that often came up was, why is this small little spot of Rodriguez, how was that chosen? So that was one takeaway. The second was, is there any way we can find students this orange spot is Hernandez. And so they said, is there any way along this I-35 corridor can we find students to supplement the section that we're pulling from Hernandez closer to the more central part of San Marcos? The third takeaway was the rezoning of De Zavala students to Bowie. They wanted us to look at the routes to both campuses and see which one made more sense. Because according to Plan 1, there's approximately 32 students that would be rezoned to Bowie. And so Mr. Grijalva, Mr. Greathouse, and myself, we actually got in a car and we drove that route. And we created a second draft with this takeaway. If you look on this map down here, Staple Road, so it's Pintail is the name of the street. And it's a subdivision with approximately 32 students at De Zavala. And it made a whole lot more sense. So Bowie is this section right here, and De Zavala is down here. And if you take Staple Road, Pintail is right here. So it was good feedback from the community. It was a quicker route. It's a straight shot from Pintail down Staples to De Zavala. So what we did was we created a second draft. So the first thing we looked at was that middle part of Rodriguez. So this small little section right here, this is still draft 1. And then the bigger map is draft 2. And so as you can see, takeaway 1 and takeaway 2, we connected the Rodriguez rezoning map now. So instead of taking this random section in the middle, we connected the two. I'm trying to do it on both screens just in case you're not looking at the same screen I am. So we're connecting the Rodriguez right here. Instead of this random section in the middle, we connected the two. And then takeaway 3, what we did was with the De Zavala, according to draft 2, those 32 students will remain at De Zavala. So De Zavala's boundaries will remain the same. So what does this look like numbers-wise? So this is a chart according to our current enrollment and then projected for Plan 1, enrollment and eco-dis numbers, and then Plan 2, projected enrollment and projected eco-dis numbers. So Karen made this chart so it can be side by side. You're not looking at two maps. You're looking at the numbers directly on. And as you can see, Bowie, current enrollment would be 542. According to Plan 1, they would move to 503. They would jump down to 462 because the De Zavala students will remain at DZ rather than them, those approximately 32 students moving to the Bowie. Crockett remains the same. De Zavala goes from 567, 534, or 575, not much change. Hernandez, you do see a significant difference. They are, proximity-wise, the closest to Rodriguez Elementary. So their numbers will go from 623 to either 466 or 468. And then Mendez and Travis.
Can you go back to the map and show me the Staples Highway? What do you call it? You said Pintail or something?
Pintail, yes, sir.
Can you show me where that is? Do you have a
Yes.
pointer or something?
So if I actually zoomed in. So it's right here. I got the clicker, but it's right this way here.
Okay. And those in the first draft were going to Rodriguez, to Bowie.
Yes, sir. And so Bowie's right here.
Yeah.
But Staples Road is right here, and it's literally a straight shot from Pintail to Staples. Instead of going through various roads to get to Bowie, transportation-wise, you can take one bus and go down Staples and get to De Zavala.
And the people that brought that up, you said that came up at at community meetings. Were they people that lived on Pintail?
Yes.
And their preference was to stay where they were?
Correct.
Okay.
Makes sense.
Except that increases enrollment at De Zavala. And we were trying to provide enrollment relief, at various schools. And so it makes Bowie, quite a bit smaller, 462, and increases the enrollment at De Zavala.
So it doesn't necessarily increase De Zavala, De Zavala maintains the same enrollment.
567 to 575. They're the only one with net more students next year than this year.
And another thing to take into consideration is Bowie with Cottonwood Creek extending out. They'll fill up Bowie
Be some
in the
growth
next
there.
few years.
So, Mr. Superintendent, if we were to adopt Plan 2, do you anticipate reassigning teachers from Bowie, or you would take volunteers, or how does that normally work? Because it looks like you're losing about 4 classrooms.
HR will put a system in place to figure that out.
Let's ask Karen that one.
Ms. Hanson?
I have 2 questions. First of all, why is Mendez lost capacity? 100. Goes from 575. All the others either stay the same or gain to 531.
When we did the flex spaces, Remember, we're opening up areas that were currently classrooms.
Okay.
And so in some of the other places, we were adding wings onto those areas so that would offset or increase the capacity. At Mendez, we're taking away classrooms for the flex spaces, but we're not adding any other additions at Mendez.
So
that's why it's actually decreasing in capacity.
So how did you do the flex spaces at Crockett, DZ?
At Crockett, remember, we're adding the wing on the end of, I don't have any of those drawings, but on the end at Crockett, we're adding for classrooms. We're also at Bowie, we're adding classrooms.
Okay,
And at Travis, we're adding a section of classrooms.
Same at Hernandez, or?
Hernandez, they stayed the same.
But flex spaces didn't?
Yes, we're adding flex spaces, and I think what we're doing is we've rearranged some classrooms and some other spaces to make space.
Okay. My second question is, are Travis and Crockett still going to be closed except for people moving into the zone? Okay, thank you. So no transfers. Thanks.
And we
Ms.
announced
Costilla?
that at all the community meetings as well.
Ms. Costilla?
Mr. Fernandez, in the meetings, on average, on the meetings that you had with community, were they well attended, or were there just a few people from some of those areas?
They all ranged for probably around 20 people at each meeting, except for De Zavala. I think there was about maybe 5 to 10.
It's just that sometimes it's worrisome when we
Mhm.
make decisions based on, we have these meetings and there's not very well
Definitely.
attended. I mean, I have stories from years ago about, just making decisions and those meetings not being very well
Definitely.
attended. And I feel like it's our responsibility to voice that for some of those people that, I'm not saying it was important to them, but for whatever reason they didn't attend, that's my concern.
Yes, ma'am. And so what we did was we actually sent a call out. We sent letters home, and we were also inviting parents out to tomorrow night. We're having a community meeting here in the San Marcos High School library. Since nothing is finalized just yet, we sent a letter home, a call out. We did a ad in the newspaper. So we're doing our best to get a hold of all families so they do have a voice.
We did have some families that weren't even in our district that are moving in,
Mhm.
that came from another district just to see. And then we had families who came from Travis because they couldn't go the night we had it at Travis, but they went to another school. So we did have.
Yeah, we had a few like Mendez families come to the Travis meeting,
Correct.
and we gave them the same information so that they were up
I
to date.
have another question. Following up on the numbers at Mendez from 580, losing 100, but the ED stays high as well. A higher proportion of those EDs are still 88% at Mendez. Now, I realize that we have, we can, wherever those people live, I understand that. But I'm just concerning to me that we're losing 100, but we still have a high ED population at that school.
Sorry, yes, we have been looking at that. It's just, unfortunately, where a lot of those children are located, that's what we were trying to look at that school and see where we could find some relief. It's just that where Mendez is located and then you look at De Zavala, Bowie, and then Rodriguez, it's very hard, and you can see that from the map, to try and find how to rezone and put those where you're getting kids around where they live to the right school, where it's easy for parents for transportation and other means. But
It's a high number for those
Yes, it is a
487.
high
It's a
number.
very high number. And I
Yes.
can already envision some parents asking, why is it that they're very highly populated with so many? Not that they don't want them there, but might be a perception on their part. I don't know. I might not be asked that question, but I just was real concerned about that high population. The population is decreasing, but that ED population is still very high.
yes.
I wanted to see whether I had asked for a breakdown regarding, and for my purposes, can they send me ethnicity-wise based on these breakdowns for these schools? Category-wise?
Okay.
That I just get a,
You can check with
Talking about current
Templeton.
draft one, draft two?
yeah,
Okay.
if you can. I really would appreciate that.
Yes, ma'am.
Ms. Halsey?
So I had a couple points, and one, I wanted to say thank you because I think that we have started this process earlier than at least the last time that I was aware of the rezoning. The community meetings at that point took place well after Christmas, and so I appreciate them happening this early, that there were many more of them, and I thought that they were really well publicized. So I know it's hard to get people out, but I think that we really went to great effort to try to encourage people to participate. I also wanted to ask, I'm assuming that the numbers up here on the current ED are reflective of the CEP
Yes,
numbers
ma'am.
that we just saw?
Yes,
Because
ma'am.
they're different than what was in our board book. So then
Correct.
my next question is, are we certain that the Plan 1 ED numbers projected in Plan 2 reflect the CEP? Because they don't look to have changed from the first round.
So the agenda prep, we did not have our Templeton demographics did not have our updated CEP data, and so the information that's in the board book is not 100% accurate. The information that's on the screen is the most up to date and is the same data Mr. Barton shared with you a few minutes ago.
Okay. And so I guess the Plan 2 numbers look slightly different, so maybe they are taking into account the updated CEP projections?
They are.
Okay.
Mhm.
That makes sense, thank you. My last point is I share Trustee Castilla's concern about the numbers at Mendez. And specifically, it looks to me that Bowie, Crockett, De Zavala, and Hernandez all decreased their numbers of EcoDis. So it looks like we're really trying to even out and close that gap. Travis goes up by 1%, but Mendez goes up by 3%, which is troubling. And I know you've just spoken about the difficulty in that, but I would like us to see if maybe we could take any other look at try to, it's difficult when we have a school that's already significantly more EcoDis than other schools, and to then further increase that and increase that gap, I think adds a lot of strain and pressure throughout the system.
Anyone else? Ms. Hanson?
Two things. I'm assuming with Mendez, it will be providing them more resources.
Well, we started this past year budgeting differentially for, yes.
So that's a good answer to parents who ask about that. And when do you expect us to vote on this? In
Yeah.
January?
That's where we can do it at the January board meeting. If you feel like we need more time or need more community input, if you want us to have more community meetings, it's really up to the board. Just if you want to pick a date, and we can have more community meetings if you like.
I've attended the one at Crockett, which really didn't have any changes, but there was a lot of people, a good number of people there, not a lot, but a good number.
Like I said, I think our main goal is to finalize everything by at least March 1st, because that's when we're telling the community that the transfer window is going to take place. The sooner we can have this finalized, the better, of course.
I'd like to see it in January.
Just curious, how was the attendance at Mendez?
No.
At Mendez, I say around 15 to 20. And then, like I said, we have another meeting tomorrow night. Hopefully that one's well attended. But I've received plenty of calls. I've also received emails. So on the letter that was sent home, it had my email address. So I've received about maybe 6 to 8 emails. I'm sure Mr. Greathouse has received some calls as well.
The meeting at Mendez, it was held at Mendez?
Yes. We had a meeting at every elementary.
Any more
Might be
questions?
better to have it in another.
So every school's boundaries changed some.
No, sir.
Okay. So like Crockett, if it goes from 600 kids to 593,
That's just based on projections.
oh, 7 kids are like aging out of the school,
Yes,
and
sir.
you're not projecting as many kindergartners.
Correct. Yes, sir.
Thank you.
Any further questions or comments? Thank you, Mr. Fernandez.
It's the same as Isabella.
We'll move on to the approval of consent agenda items. On approval of minutes for regular scheduled board meeting on November 12th and special called meeting on December 3rd. We'll need to separate those out.
Yes, please, I would like to pull
that item so that,
So
we'll
we'll,
vote on separately.
we'll need to vote because we had a trustee absent. So we'll take first the November 12th.
I move that we approve the November 12th board meeting minutes.
I will second.
Ms. Halsey seconds. All in favor? 5, and 1 abstention.
And I will abstain.
Next meeting was December 3rd.
I move that we approve those board meeting minutes.
I will second that.
Ms. Halsey seconds. All in favor? 6 opposed, 0. We don't have any personnel action. We'll move on to, Oh.
Yes, we do.
oh, she does have some, okay.
You're taking over all the departments.
Good evening.
She's on track.
Marcy Baez back. So we have 5 positions. We have 4 teaching positions and a nurse for vacancies. So we're out of the time. So 1 at Miller, 2 at Goodnight, 1 at Travis, and the nurse at Bonham. Okay. And then also, we have an early recruitment proposal in anticipation of the dual language program growing. Separate, it's not together? Okay.
Well, just as
Sorry.
to these are replacements,
Yes.
and they were all, were they all the unanimous recommendation of the various committees?
So-
Yes.
Yes,
Okay, thanks.
yes.
Ms. Halsey?
Is the nurse position, is it an LVN or an RN?
RN.
Thank you.
Any other questions?
I
Ms.
move that we approve personnel action as listed.
I'll second.
Mr. McLaughlin seconds. All in favor? 1, 2, 3, 6. Any opposed? 0. Items for action, consider approval of budget amendments. Now you can go, Ms. Griffith.
Yes, on page 66 of your packet, you will find 2 budget amendments for your approval for this month.
So this is just moving money around from
Yes.
within.
What was there specific need as to the athletics security?
Well, they are upping their security, having security at their basketball and track sports where they didn't have those before. So yes, so they have to increase that budget. So they're moving it from the 36 extracurricular to 52 to security.
Basketball and what?
Track.
And
Oh, it says
soccer.
basketball, soccer, and track sports.
Oh, maybe at the middle school. Okay. Thanks.
Are there questions? Do I hear a motion?
I move that we approve both the budget amendments.
I'll second that motion.
Ms. Viapando seconds. All in favor? 6. No, 0 opposed. Consider resolution nominating a candidate for the vacancy on the Caldwell County Appraisal District Board of Directors. Ms. Viapando?
Yes, I have some background on this. I don't have a name to contribute. We had actually nominated somebody earlier in the year, if y'all remember. And so it's not like we haven't been through this before, even this year. But it's very difficult because our interest in this is only in District 2 because it covers Martindale and that area, that part of Caldwell County. And so we have very little allotted to us as far as voting strength because we're in that part of it, very small part of it. The Caldwell County Appraisal District has 5 members. 4 of them are from Lockhart, and that would be based probably, it's my assumption because it's not in detail on their website, the Lockhart ISD, the City of Lockhart, and the county. So also, the other member is from Luling. So I would imagine that the little community in Luling has enough strength that they can vote their own member in. So it's very difficult for the other, like the City of Martindale, San Marcos CISD, Fentress, the Prairie Lake School District, if we were to get together, maybe that could happen and combine all those points. But I'm not sure because I don't know what the strength of Luling would be. That would be the only one that we probably could maybe ask them to to relinquish some of their strength to us or something, or to all these other entities, so that we could have somebody from the Martindale area. They do have to live in the school district. So that's what makes it so difficult. We did nominate somebody, like I said previously, but I wanted to explain that member didn't get on. And so they've had a resignation here recently. This has come up again.
Ms. Peters doesn't want to serve?
Ms. Peterson.
She doesn't want to serve?
She, I won't go there.
Okay.
Ms. Peters, I am sorry, but your information about somebody, I mean, the three of us on this board that did not know anything about it, or I don't don't remember exactly what your comment was. That's incorrect. We've already voted on this once this year. But I'm recommended that we let the Caldwell County Appraisal District know that no, we don't have anybody to assign our strength to, or whatever they.
This is just to nominate.
This is just a nomination.
Yeah, we're not actually
Yeah.
voting.
So the individual, Ms. Villalpando, the individual that we put forward last time, do they not want to serve?
No, they
They didn't have
probably
the
didn't get
votes.
approved
But we
because
could
they
nominate
didn't
him
have the
again,
votes.
correct? Like for this vacancy?
I didn't contact him this time, and I was just going to try to find more information from the Caldwell County Appraisal District.
I guess I'll make a motion to table the item then.
We have until January the 4th, the
Yeah.
14th.
According to this letter that they sent, we need to do submit a name.
Do we have a meeting?
Yeah, we have
prep.
Agenda prep.
We can put it on the agenda prep.
Well, let's put it on again, and then I will contact, there were several people that wanted to serve last time. And the thing is that we need to try to get City of Martindale and us on the same page and try to, and maybe some of the others, but the person, whoever we want to, he has to go to the other communities. I don't feel like
All we can
I'm the
do is, all we
representative
can
to
do
do
is
that.
nominate.
All we can do is
nominate,
nominate,
and it's up to that candidate to go and try to get some support.
I will ask them, and then they can go in advance, and we can go ahead. If he's willing to do that, or someone from Martindale is willing to do that, then we can, I can certainly work with that person to try to get some. But I wish we knew, I don't know, Karen, do you know how much each taxing entity is allowed? How many?
No, I think right now they're just asking for a name and then you
I
take.
know that, but because of the amount of taxes,
I can bring you that breakdown that we did, that we normally get every other year when we nominate. I can show you how much voting power
Caldwell
we have.
County, does it list all their taxing entities?
Yes, I can bring
Oh,
that back
good,
to you.
okay, well then that's what we need.
Okay, I'll bring you back the one from 2 years ago that they sent.
Yeah.
I'm sure it's pretty
Well, I
Much
couldn't,
the same.
similar, yeah.
I went on their website and I couldn't find anything like that, so, okay.
Okay.
You have it, and that'll be good. Okay.
Ms. Castillo, did you
Thank
have your hand
No,
up?
I was just wanting to follow up whether it might be, was Ms. Villalpando maybe suggesting that we, given the fact that probably we don't have enough votes when it comes to those taxes, that maybe not even nominate anybody, or since it appears that they have not, somebody else from another area has won or gotten the votes because they have the taxing, the strength there, but you know, if we're gonna table it, we're gonna table it, and we're gonna get additional
Well, we'll
information, and we can decide what we're gonna do, yeah.
Well, we'll
Maybe
have
we
some
can
kind
find
of
somebody who
information.
wants to go to the other districts and
Entity.
talk to them.
So, Mr. McLaughlin, were you gonna table it?
I mean, they can die for lack of a second, and they can put it back on the agenda, but
Oh,
yeah.
well, I'll table, I'll
Second?
I'll move
Alright.
to table.
Till the
and
January agenda prep.
Right.
to it,
Okay.
exactly.
So you moved, anybody second?
When do we meet in
Lucas
January?
second.
McLaughlin?
Second.
Lucas second.
Oh, Lupa second. Ms. Costilla second. All in favor? 6-0. Consider approval for San Marcos High School cheerleading team to travel to Orlando, Florida for competition.
I'll move that we approve the travel request for the San Marcos High School cheerleading team.
Do I hear a second?
I second.
Ms. Halsey seconds. Any discussion or question?
Yes, I have some questions. They're going to miss 3 school days, is that correct?
4.
Or
Well, they're leaving at 3 on one day. So really,
That counts.
3 full days. And how are they doing the fundraising? Are we paying just straight out for it, or?
Whatever is the campus will cover their campus principal. Last year, the board graciously approved them and authorized.
So kids don't have to fundraise?
They're
Okay.
fun.
Oh, they are
but we're not
fundraising?
paying for it, or not at a budget amendment.
They're fundraising.
Okay.
It's a 1-year deal.
All in favor? 6-0 opposed. Consider extension of long-term use rental of facility.
Yes, on page 76 of your packet, you will find a long-term facility request for Sozo Church. They were currently using Bowie at one time, and now they've moved to Goodnight, and so they would like to extend that rental agreement at Goodnight.
I move that the board grant Sozo Church San Marcos a 1-year extension of their continuous use of Goodnight Middle School's auditorium.
I'll second.
We have motion and second for Mr. McLaughlin. Any questions or discussions? All in favor? 6-0 opposed. Consider approval of bilingual associates.
Good evening, board members, Madam President, Mr. Cardona. I'm here to propose early recruitment for our anticipation of growth for our dual language program for the 2019-2020 school year. I would like to propose an early hire of 4 bilingual instructional associates. These individuals filling these positions are more than likely were recent graduates who are finalizing their certification exams and will most likely be seeking employment in May. This early recruitment will allow us the opportunity to support our dual language program by early recruitment of a potential 5 positions that we will have to hire regardless next school year. Be proactive in developing these potential teachers by identifying the areas of growth and providing professional development based on their needs. Candidates will provide additional support in classrooms through first-hand experiences, and we will pair them with dual language teachers and aid them in becoming familiar with our dual language program as well. These candidates will understand the district's vision and expectations, and early exposure to parent and community engagements and district collaboratives and instructional material as well. Now, last year's efforts, this time last year, you allowed us to recruit and hire 4 positions. I'm here to tell you that that was very successful because we retained those teachers. They're currently in our dual language program and being successful. Thank you.
I move that the board approve the bilingual instructional associate positions as specified by the administration.
Do I hear a second?
I'll second.
Ms. Costilla seconds. Any discussion or questions? Ms. Hanson?
I have a couple questions. When you say they're instructional associates, are they being paid at that pay grade? Or are they being paid as teachers? Okay. Once they're certified, does that change in pay? Yes. Okay. So,
So it's an instructional associate.
but if there's no opening, do they change pay? Once they're certified?
Yes, but there'll be an opening, there'll be openings.
But I'm saying, let's say in March,
There
I
isn't.
receive my certification.
Oh, okay.
Do I change to a teacher pay because I've got my certification now,
Yes.
even though I don't have my own classroom?
Yes.
Okay, I just wanted to clarify what, I'm sorry. And, let's see, I'm glad to hear that we retained the ones that we did last year, that's excellent.
Thank you. Thank you, Dr. Bias, thank you. Ready to vote, all in favor? 6, 0 opposed. Consider approval of comprehensive policy review updates.
I move that the board authorize TASB Policy Service to add, revise, or delete local policies according to the summary document resulting in the policy review session conducted with the district on December 17th of 2018.
I'll second that. Any questions or discussion? All in favor? 5, 6, opposed, 0.
I move that we adjourn.
Second.
Ms. Hanson moves and Mr. McLaughlin seconds. All in favor of adjournment? 6, 0. 7